Well, you know, film festivals are one of the few places that you get to meet other people that do what you do. All filmmakers, in a sense, work in isolation. Animators even more so.
At the beginning of going to film festivals, you're kind of like alone because you don't know anybody, right? You could be the only Canadian at this film festival, and you've got to sort of learn how to make friends and you know, kind of hang out with the other filmmakers, and then you start making those connections. So, you know, now 10 years later, after going to film festivals, I feel great because I can go into a room and there might be 3 or 4 people I know, and it's like kind of seeing, it's like a reunion sometimes. Most of those, I'd be very lucky, the festival either have flown me out or put me up in a hotel or helped compensate the travel. But that comes with sort of making more films and making more of a name for yourself. You know, as you start to gain more notoriety in your career, that's going to happen more and more.
It appeared in festivals around the world, including New Zealand and Europe. It won a couple of prizes, and it opened in Ottawa, which was a privilege, you know, so I got to the first film of the night. So those kinds of things were great honors to me. And one of the greatest kinds of honors I had was I got a really good review in a newsletter written by school teachers for school teachers. In that review, they really understood what I wanted to try and do with the film. And so in those kinds of small ways, I felt as though the efforts I put in were acknowledged, and I felt proud and happy as a result.
It's also very, very important to see your work in rooms full of people, because any work that you do changes dramatically when you're watching it with a room full of people. I've got a film right now showing at a theater in Vancouver, and I'm going to go see it. I've already seen it. I've already seen it 3 times, but I'm going to go see it again. But I want to see it with a group of people in a room, because it helps me know better what to do next time.
As a starting out filmmaker, you know, you want to win awards, right? Because awards sort of give you a little bit of clout, I guess, right? People are like, oh, you're an award-winning filmmaker, you know, like, or if you win an award at a really established film festival, that can really propel your career.
As far as which festivals are most important, well, you can break that down by the length of time a festival's been in existence, where it is in the world, who goes to the festival. For animation, most people, I would believe, would consider the Annecy Festival in France to be #1, because it's been there the longest time, 1960 to now, just celebrated 50 years of existence. Then Zagreb in Croatia, which is also in Europe, but they've been there for a long time. After that, then you may say Hiroshima in Japan, because they have been around for a long time, and then you have a different mindset. That's a peace and love festival. So don't send them films that have violence or kung fu fighting or anything like that. You have to be careful. And then Anima Mundi, if you want to get your exposure below the equator, in Brazil. In Canada, it's Ottawa. And they're like in Germany, Stuttgart, and so on and so forth.
But don't limit yourself to just animation festivals. Most of my biggest successes have come from screening at Tribeca or some of the other festivals. You know, try to get into Sundance, trying to get into, you know, try for Tribeca. Try for the top tier festivals first. Because what will end up happening is, if your film gets selected for one of these top tier festivals, chances are other festivals will take notice of that and they'll invite you to submit to their festivals. Different festivals favor different types of films, definitely. And there are film festivals, there are animation festivals, film festivals, documentary, experimental, new cinema. What you must see when you see the names of the festivals, you'll see what festival is most appropriate for what you've done.
And to get a sense of what the flavors are, and you can tell by even visiting their website and seeing what past winners were and reading the philosophy of the festival.
the nature of film festivals, it seems, has changed quite a bit. In the early days, my first films, when I would submit a film, I submitted a motion picture, a 35 millimeter film. So when the selection committee meets in the festivals, they sit in a theater, and each of the films comes from the projection booth onto a screen. And so you're in this theater, and you must look at the screen, and you're with some other people, and that, maybe 5 people in an entire theater, and you watch these films. And every film must be put in the projector and shown. So every film is a very important event. And they can say, oh, that's enough of that. It's not very good, or, oh, this is amazing. They would react to the film as if they were in a theater, because the selection committee is in a theater. Now, in the 21st century, we submit our films on DVDs, right? So, and it's easier to make films now than it was in the past, not as expensive. We don't have to go to the trouble of making a 35 millimeter print. We just make a DVD. And so the festivals receive twice as many films as before in the 20th century. There are so many films that it's lost. Going back to Bambi meets Godzilla, if that picture was made today, 2 weeks, viral. After that, 0. I don't know if their evaluation of your film is as concentrated as it was in the 20th century. Therefore, I'm wondering whether when you make a film now for a festival, you must make sure that whatever the first images are very powerful.
Vancouver has a length of 20 minutes or under for shorts that we consider a short. My preference personally is shorter shorts. My rule is about 3 minutes maximum. If I'm not fully engrossed in your film by 3 minutes, it's not a good short.
Hooking an audience would be, there are some tricks. An identifiable kind of facial expression, or gesture, or movement, or characterization. Interesting scenes, like environment that is interesting, and something that's immediately intriguing. Movement will show. Some people would say that music will do it. That'll either draw you in or turn a person away.
Sound can tell story. And that's, I think, the real most powerful part of sound. Sound can foreshadow things that are going to be happening in the future. Sound can remember things that have happened in the past. So you can use sound to move around in time. If you can say something with sound, it's a lot easier, and sometimes a lot more resonant, or a lot more realistic, because our imagination, nobody can draw as good as my imagination.
For a film to be successful, it has to relate to the audience. The audience has to connect.
All story, or that engaging thing, has to somehow find some level of universal understanding.
When I make a picture, I want the whole world to be able to look at it and feel some connection to it. So I try to make characters that do not specifically represent anybody on Earth.
Story, maybe, engagement, and time. It's like you're watching a film and all of a sudden everything stops and you're waiting. Oh, waiting is a form of suspense. So all of a sudden you set up this expectation and this engagement from your audience going, and what's going to happen next? And you're not even doing anything. So you have to understand this idea that you're always working in time-based. And you always have to understand the spaces and the phrasing and how the time is unfolding.
I think a challenge for us as art students is to select neutral kinds of audiences. We ask our next door neighbor to look at the piece, or we ask the person that we buy coffee from every day to look at the piece, or just grab people off the street and show the work and see what the kind of feedback we're getting, especially if we want to make work for a broader audience, for a more global kind of group. We need to get that feedback. The thing about animation is hard work. It's very, very hard. It's very difficult to be involved with animation. It takes time, energy, dedication. You need to be able to think on your feet and change very quickly and be open to all sorts of feedback. And then that's the conductor. And then the character, so that's what they look like on the top, and that's what they are like on the back. So I literally have hundreds and thousands of pieces in this film. I have it in my in the storage room, all in boxes.
And I think a good filmmaker is a good entrepreneur, right? You're going to need those skills of marketing and promotion and distribution to be able to get your film seen. Because if you make a film, nobody sees it, you just sort of wasted a year of your life, right? So that's one thing too. And I guarantee you in 5 years you'll look back and be like, I can't watch this film anymore because that was a piece of me 5 years ago. And now I'm better. As a filmmaker, you should always be growing. You should always be progressing.
Get your animation done and give your sound designers lots of time. It's not how long it actually takes to physically do something. It's the amount of time you spend thinking about it. So if you think, if you say, what's it going to take 3 or 4 days to put sound on this? Then you haven't allowed for any time to think about it. And it's only in thinking about something that you're going to get good work. If you're an animator and you say, sound is not really a big part of my piece, so I'm not going to give it that much time, you will be right. If you say sound is an important part of my piece, and I'm going to give it a certain amount of time, you will be right.
I think in terms of festival submissions, I think it's better to submit earlier than later because you have a better chance. You'll get a better judgment because there's not so much stuff that the programmer has seen yet. When you come in late, you're not getting as much time, you're not getting as much chance to make an impression. You got to make a really big impression really fast.
Keep going, don't stop, make a film. Because in your whole life, you may only be privileged enough to make one film that comes right from your heart, right from your brain. It's everything you want it to be. In the end, that lives with you for the rest of your life. You have it. You can say, I did this.
If people can walk out of something that I was involved with knowing a bit more about themselves, that would be, good. The more people understand themselves and are accepting of themselves, the happier they'll be. And the happier they are, the happier the people around them will be. So you can actually make, without sounding too corny, you can actually help the world be better. If you can sort of raise people's consciousness about themselves and about the world around them and their position in the world, even by just a small amount, you're actually doing something worthwhile.
Love what you do, be passionate about what you do. Spend 4 years at school plus 1 year of production of a grad film, which also includes all the pre-production, all the development in 3rd and 2nd year. Don't sit on your project. Get it out there. Enter it into festivals. Try and get it distributed. It's worth it.